Well, when when you're when you become in the Coast Guard, you take tests, and you they have a process of taking a test, and they take your award points, and which they take your medals and stuff like that, and then they take your commanding officer's appraisal, um, and they put it all together, and they come up with a number, and that number puts you on the list with everybody else. So if I'm an E5, I want to be an E6. They go put all my numbers together, and they go put this number on the list with all the E6s, all the E5 that want to be E6. Okay, so if that number puts me up in position 100, okay, so from 1 to 100, my name is there. Okay, I'm number 100. They would, if they need 100 E6s, I'll make E6. If I make E6, they have to transfer me because now I'm out of my billet. So if you advance and get a promotion, you have to get transferred. Usually a tour is 3 to 4 years, depending on what type of unit it is. So you every 3 to 4 years, they'll be asking you to put a a request of where you want to go.
And so for every tour, the 3 or 4 years, do you have to stay in that same rank?
No, because in that period you're gonna try to get all the requirements to go for the next rank. So that's if you go in the beginning of your tour, and in 2 years you got all your requirements, you be taking a test, you may end up getting transferred out of that unit earlier.
Okay. And following Long Island and the patrol boat, where did you go from there?
From the patrol boat, I was stationed in Cutter Redwood, a buoy tender out of New London, Connecticut.
Okay. And what year was that?
That was 90, 93 or 94. 93 or 90, no, it was 93.
What were your impressions of that?
Well, I was a chief on the boat. I was in a high position, and it was a very good. I think it was a very good unit. I enjoyed it a lot. Again, that when you work in ace to navigation, you work hard. But then at night you make sure everything is all secured. The ship is filled up. Everything is all topped off. Everything is all wiped down. We're ready to go the next day, and then you're off. So you're. I mean, it was a very. All my units were very enjoyable. So.
And was that your last stint, or what?
That was my last ship. Yeah, the cutter Redwood was my last cutter in my career.
Okay. How much time was spent on a boat or at sea?
I have 7.5 years of sea duty, but depending on what size cutter, depending on how many days you're out at sea. I mean, you don't stay out at sea like 3 or 4 months. You know what I mean? We don't have that capability. So we go out, maybe on the medium endurance cutter, we were out for about 3 weeks, and then we pull in, fuel, get stores, and then we go back out.
And what were the missions that you guys were going on? What were you guys doing at sea?
Well, that's the thing about the Coast Guard is that if you're on the buoy tender, or you're in the aids to navigation the section of the Coast Guard, you doing aids to navigation. So that's your primary mission is aids to navigation. If you're on the Whitehall cutters, then you do law enforcement, you do search and rescue, you could be doing fisheries, you could be doing patrols. On the buoy, on the icebreaker, our main function was breaking ice. That's all we did. We broke ice, and then in the summertime we did patrols.
Patrols of what?
We went through we went up to Massachusetts, Boston area. We did Long Island. We did New York Harbor. We went down to I think we went down to Virginia one time. With patrols where they need us. I mean, we weren't a fast ship, but they used us more as like a command center for other events, such as the fireworks in New York Harbor. They stationed us in the middle of the harbor, and they used us as a command platform to tell all the other small boats where to be and what to do, and make sure that everybody's away from the barges with the fireworks.
Okay. And what was a typical day like for you?
In what you mean?
Let's start with the kind of units where you were lower ranking, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Low ranking. Typical day was be in the unit. Do certain check the boats. We do morning checks, so we start the engines, we check the oil, we make sure the lights are working, we make sure the boat is ready to go. We fuel up, we add water, we did tasks, we did PMs, preventive maintenance on the boats, and we got dirty. I mean, you get dirty in that. When you start moving up in higher ranks, now you're supervising and you're teaching the lower ranks how to complete those tasks. So as a E5, you're teaching the E4s and the E3s how to perform a specific task. So you be in charge of maybe one or two guys, and you're doing the job, and you're making sure they know how to do that job. And when you become an E6, now you're in charge of a shop maybe. Now you're delegating work to different E5s. So you give it to an E5, and you give him, okay, you take him, and you go on the job. As a chief, you're taking care of more of the paperwork, but you are as the chief on the patrol boat, you were the resident expert of engineering, so you ran the whole department. So as a chief petty officer on the cutter, the Point Bonita, I was in charge. I was the department head of the engineering department, which was a small department, but I was still responsible for that department.
And what were some of the more eventful days that happened under your
time more eventful?
What kind of the more significant events that happened?
Let me see. Well, on one was to go pick up a brand new ship. That was a very eventful, memorable moment in my career. And we went through the Panama Canal, and we enjoyed that, and we brought the boat all the way around to Virginia. So that was memorable. Another one was on the Sturgeon Bay. Our sister ship had a stack fire, and we had to turn around and go back out and relieve them from station um, to break ice. So we had to turn back around and go back out and break ice.
And the point of breaking ice is to clear the water for other ships.
Yeah, yeah. We were our area of responsibility was the Hudson, so we went up all the way up to the Catskills to West Point breaking ice, and during the day, and then at night we pull in, we fuel up, we get food and whatever, and then the morning we go back out and start breaking ice again.
Okay. And I would assume this is a no, but did you see any combat?
No, I never saw combat. Never did.
Okay. And were there ever any casualties in your unit?
Besides guys falling down a ladder or breaking knuckles on some tools and stuff like that, we never had casualties that people died or anything like that. I mean, we didn't do. I never saw that.
Okay. We're never prisoner of war.
No.
Do you know anyone that was?
Prisoner of war? No. No, that I know of.
And were you awarded any medals or citations?
I was awarded the Coast Guard Achievement Medal. I was awarded. I had like 5 or 6 good conducts. During the Gulf War, we were issued a medal of what? They gave us a medal because we was in active duty during the Gulf War. I don't know what the name of it. Forget the name of it.
And how was your time during your time in active duty during wartime different from your time when things were calm?
When in '90, when the first Gulf War started, I was stationed on the Sturgeon Bay, which is the icebreaker, and part of our task was to do patrols around. New Jersey had a weapon station, so they have ammo and stuff like that for ships. So we were tasked to do patrols around that area. So the 2 breakers, we were tasked to take turns to do patrols around New Jersey. Forget they call them. The New Jersey is in Jersey. Is a weapon station that's in New Jersey.
And were there ever any events that happened?
No, it was quiet. It was quiet.
Okay. And did you have any friends that served in combat?
I knew a guy named Kenny. He was in the Army, and he used to do used to be a mechanic for I think with the Blackhawks. He was a mechanic for them. I know a young man that works for me now. He was in the Army as a mechanic for the Cobras during the Bosnia issue. I knew a guy named my brother-in-law. He was in the Iraq War when the second one. My brother-in-law Miguel, he was in the Gulf War also. He's still serving there, and my brother-in-law Carlos doing the same thing. So I know people I know a guy named Andy that he was in Vietnam, and he used to be artillery, and he cannot hear taps yet.
Okay. And And just to go back to boot camp really quick, do you generally stay with people who are going into the same field that you are, or is it kind of high school where after high school everyone kind of goes to different colleges? Does everyone kind of go to the different places that they were training for, or is there like an overall training process?
I think the best way the best way that you said it was like high school. Everybody goes to different colleges, um, depending on what you want to do, um, or where they need you also, because that was a big factor. If they needed 5 guys from boot camp, they don't care where you want to go. They'll send you. I mean, it wasn't all like it was a luck. It was a lot, draw of a luck. You put your name in the hat and hopefully you get it. But in boot camp, you may be stationed with 1 or 2 guys, and that's it. Everybody else went different places. People went to California, Alaska, Puerto Rico, New York, the the Mississippi. It depends.
So were you guys all in the same branch of service, or did they kind of keep everyone? So everyone who was in the Coast Guard stood in that specific instance of boot camp. And then
Yes,
the other,
yes. Our boot camp was in Cape May, New Jersey, which was only for Coast Guard. So we were all Coast Guard.
Okay. And did you ever sustain any injuries?
Uh, no, I mean, sprain ankle, hurt my back, but besides that, nothing. I didn't get shot. If that's what you're trying to look for.
No. But so how did you hurt your back? Sprained ankle. How did those happen?
Going down the ladder, the boat moving, you misjudge your step, lifting heavy parts, trying to get the job done. That's pretty much it.
So now we're gonna move to kind of your family life in the army. How did you stay in touch with your family during your time?
Telephone. No cell phone. It was telephone. I had to wait to get in and call up.
And how often were you able to contact your family?
Again, it depends on where the boat is. The boat may be tied up for 2 or 3 days, and we could call up 2 or 3 days. And if we are out at sea, we don't call. So we didn't have any cell phones at that time. So letters, we did postcards when we pull in. That's pretty much it.
And how did that affect your demeanor, your morale? Not being able to be in contact with your family for days and however long time.
It was a job. I mean, I think my present wife, my man, she got the worst part of it, because when I was on the patrol boat, we didn't have a social life. We were at different level of readiness, and at 2 hours notice we had to get on the way. So we couldn't just go and do anything we wanted. I had to plan my events at home as much as possible, because I have to be prepared to be called up and go.
Okay. And did your ability to stay in touch with your family change over time from when you first started to when you ended?
Yeah. Cell phones came up. So we had a cell phone, and we couldn't use it on the boat, but it was a lot easier to call up. As soon as the boat tied up, we called up. So we didn't have to be looking around for phones and stuff like that. And then sometimes they let you use the phones on the ship to call the family, but you got 20 guys trying to call out of 2 phones. 2 lines. You gotta wait. So.
And how about when you were in boot camp?
Boot camp letters.
Letters.
That's it. We had letter. Yeah, you write letters, and I think we had. Could have called. I think after the third or fourth week of boot camp, they gave us time to call home. So that's about it.
Okay. And what was the food like?
It was food. It was a lot of fat. You know, it was no gourmet food, but it was food. So they gave you 3 meals a day, and you eat whatever you could eat.
And what kind of foods was it?
What kind of food with it? Well, the Coast Guards. The first time I saw and I ate SOS, what they call shit on shingles. So it's toast with ground meat, with gravy, and egg on top of it. Never liked it, but you got accustomed to it and you ate it, so it was good. And on Fridays was surf and turf, so you had some kind of seafood and steak, which was that was good. Then you get your hot dogs that they were like pink, and you're like, what the hell is that? You know. But that's, you know, stuff like that. I mean, you know, so you got one spectrum to another. You know, breakfast was pretty good. Breakfast was always good. You know.